Hi folks, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. The fly you see in the vise is called the Duracell. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise is a Hanak H430 barbless hook, the Jig Eagle. This one's at size 16 and it's finished on a medium wire in black nickel. I've coupled it with a 3.5mm slotted tungsten bead, and as you can see it's silver. Now, the thread I'm going to be using today is nano silk at 6/0, and as you can see it's red. Now, the fly was originally tied by Craig Mcdonald as a Grayling bug, and it's become very well known and it is very effective. And he would probably be using red thread, but I'm using the nano silk because I like it basically. But I have used a red nano silk. I like it for a couple of reasons, especially for this style of fly, which will become more apparent towards the end of the tying. So first thing I've done is put a little bit of super glue onto the shank of the hook, and I'm now building a small bump just to hold my bead in place. I don't want it moving about on top of the shank while I'm working. So first things first, I'm going to tie in a Coq de Leon tail. This stuff is from Troutline and it's very fine fibres, going to get a lot of movement with this tail, and I'm looking for 4 to 5 fibres off the stem for this size of fly. Now I want it to be approximately from the bead to the end of the hook tail length, so I'm going to catch that in, measure it up, try and keep it on top. When a tip when you're tying these tails on is to have the tail slightly towards you, and when you bring your thread over the top it will bring the tail on top of the fly. Now I think unusually that I've probably got the length just about right there. Usually I've got to mess around moving it, but I'm quite happy with that length. So I'm going to come in with my scissors and just remove the excess. Now I'll bring my thread all the way back to the bead, and I'm going to add a red rib, which is at 0.2mm. As you can see, it's quite a bright red rib, and I'm going to tuck that into the slot of the bead, and again I'm going to try and keep the rib on top of the shank of the hook. Now I'm going to come all the way back. Now I'm not coming quite back to where the thread is, and there's a good reason for that. Now I'm going to move my rib out the way, because what I should have done was come around and caught a turn underneath the tail just to splay it out, but better late than not at all, eh? So I've got my rib in place, and the next thing I'm going to do is add my dubbing. Now a special thank you to Steve Cullen. This is really hard to source. I did look everywhere for it, but I couldn't find it. It's Hairlines Ice Dub UV Brown, and it's Ice 40 if you are trying to find it. But I did look on the internet for some time trying to find the dub and couldn't get it. Before I add the dubbing noodle, what I'm going to do is just build up a taper with my thread, and then I can come back down. Now I've not had these in my boxes, I've not fished them, but after speaking to Graham Ferguson, he told me they're really good, so I thought I better add some to the box for the coming grayling season. Now I looked online for tutorials on how to tie the fly, and I've seen various different versions, so I thought it best to get in touch with Craig himself and find out the exact dressing for the fly. I'm not a huge believer in it needs to be exact, but for a pattern that's as well established as the Duracell, I thought I'd best get it right. So I've gone to quite a great deal of trouble to gather the materials for this and make sure it is correct. So I've got the dubbing onto my thread, and I just want it nice and tightly packed on there so I can control the taper of the body. So that's looking a bit better. And as I bring it up, I'm going to just come back down to create that cigar shaped taper. And then I'll bring it all the way back up to just behind the bead. Now, because I didn't come all the way to the bottom where the tail is, I won't disturb the tail when I bring my rib round. Now I want the rib to come in the opposite direction to the way I've dubbed it onto the body, so it stands out, and I'm looking for around 3 turns. A red rib on a fly this size, and then as I get up towards the bead, I'm going to just pull it in and nestle in it in behind the back of the bead. I'm going to secure that in, and then I'm going to get a couple of turns in front of that rib. Now, you don't ever use your scissors to cut wire, especially wire this thick. You'll just blunt them. So keeping tension on your thread, grab the thread and just simply helicopter it away. The next thing then is to add a CDC collar. Now I'm going to do that using my clip, which I have got on my bench somewhere. So I've got a CDC feather, as you can see. I've already used 1/2 of it, and now I want to come in and grab the other half. Now just off camera here, I'm going to trim it so that I take that centre stem out, leaving enough material to catch in with my thread. Now I'm not quite sure how Craig does this part, but certainly the way I do it is, and because I'm using the red nano silk, I can split my thread, and it's 6/0. It's so easy to do, like so. Then I can bring in my clip and simply twist up the CDC. Now, one of the things Craig did mention to me is a lot of mistakes are made by trying to incorporate too much CDC in the collar. It is quite a sparse collar, so don't go overboard with this. I'm going to bring it round all the way. I'm going to slick it back, get a couple of turns in front of that CDC. The next thing then, to finish off, I'm simply going to grab another little bit of the same colour dubbing, so it's the Ice 40, and I'm going to wrap that up like so. And that looks not too shabby. So to finish off, rather than go in afterwards with a super glue, I'm going to just add a tiny touch to my thread. I think I'm going to need some new super glue. This one's starting to really get a bit gel-like, not as thin as it used to be. I'll just stretch that out over the thread. Grab my whip finish tool. Three turns, and again, because it's nano silk, when I pull it tight, it's just going to disappear in behind that bead. And there we go. Now the fly doesn't require any scruffing out, which is going to help with its sink rate. Nice profile to it, and hopefully that's going to catch me a load of grayling come the winter time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.